Hello, welcome to Waylander's Wandering. I hope you're feeling good because I'm feeling fine. I'd like to start off this video by mentioning the post I just put up on the Facebook group, link to which is down below and should be appearing on screen now. With my health issues, I'm no longer able to go out and do the railway and visitor attraction videos that I started the channel with a year ago. I'm hoping to be able to recommence that before too long, but for now I'm afraid that that part of the Waylander's Wandering is going to be on hiatus. But yeah, hopefully we'll get back on track with that very soon. Anyway, I will be continuing the YouTube channel with the monthly Lego build videos that I've been doing recently. I have those queued up until December, and I hope you're enjoying those because I'm enjoying doing the builds and making the videos. I hope you're enjoying watching them as much as I'm enjoying making them. In the meantime, to fill up the other 3 weeks of the month, I'm hoping to do some scale modelling videos, some how-tos or tips and tricks style videos, and I'll be doing those for either model railways, because I've got my 00 scale things that need some work, some need some paint, some need weathering, etc, etc, and I have no doubt I'll be doing a how to do ballasting, which I'm sure you've seen a million times on YouTube, but hey, you've never seen me do it and it might be fun. Let's do it together. But to kick off the scale modelling part of the channel, I'm going to be painting this, which is Captain Rex from the Clone Wars, and he's part of the Star Wars Legion's miniature wargaming thing from Fantasy Flight Games. And I chose this one because A, it's May, and May the 4th be with you, and B, my friend Kev from the Hobby Corner, again linked down below, has got his KFC challenge, which is Kev's Fantastic Challenge, and this month's one is a Star Wars miniature, or a Star Wars themed miniature, and I've decided to do Captain Rex because I kind of like Captain Rex. He's a good guy. So in this video I'll be showing you how I prepare a resin multi-part miniature and how the paint application for this particular armour scheme with some weathering and sort of battle damage is going to be attained. Anyway, I think that's enough with the waffle. It's time's getting on a little bit, so let's get on with preparing the miniature and getting it painted. Okay, now we've got the model nicely undercoated, a nice even coat of grey primer. What we're going to do is paint in the black parts under the cape here, and any darker parts under the helmet here, before assembling the rest of the miniature together and getting on. To do this, we will be using Games Workshop's Citadel colour Abaddon Black, or Abaddon Black as many people say. Let's discuss that in the comments down below. Hashtag he's just a dancing queen for Abaddon, and hashtag he's just a naughty boy for Abaddon. Anyway, let's get a bit of this on the palette. Goodness me, that's tough. As you can see, my palette is simply a old wall tile, which is a very good surface. We'll water paint down ever so slightly to give a nice smooth coat, so we don't want it clumping up at all and obscuring any detail. So starting here, we will go nice smooth strokes of the brush just to make sure we get good coverage, and if it turns out to be a little too thin, we will put a second coat on. Okay, with that stage done and a nice even coat of black on the inside of the skirts and the underside of the helmet there, it's time to glue old Rexy together. Now I'm going to be using Gorilla Super Glue because it holds really well. I mean, if you are and it's quite cheap actually. Glue is important, but you don't always get better just because it's more expensive. There are way more expensive brands of glue out there, but you don't need to use them. So we will now stick his leggies on, get in there, push it down and make sure it's good firm hold. And as you can see, he's come together quite nicely there. Now again, a small dab of glue into his neck hole, which is some of the phrase I didn't think I'd be using today. And we will stick his head in his neck hole. There. And now he's all together and ready for the next stage of painting, which will be the armor plate, the white armor plate. So without further ado, let's get on with that. Okay, for the white armor, we will be using a coat of white scar from Citadel Colour, covered with a glaze. So a glaze will be made from a very thin down coat of Ulthuan Grey, also from Citadel, which I'll probably mix 3 blobs of water to 1 blob of paint, possibly 4. I think definitely 4 because it's easier to put another coat on than it is to take one off. So let's get this paint mixed up and get on with that. Again, I'll be using my character brush from Army Painter, and we'll start by putting a good amount of the white scar on our palette, which again we'll thin down slightly and get a nice point on the brush before we start applying it to the white armor pieces. So all the white armor pieces, start wherever you like and give it a nice smooth even coat of white paint. Okay, so that's all the white parts painted in, and we've been careful not to get any onto the black underskirt area there. The wash has gone on. It leaves a very subtle shade, but I'm sure you can see it and appreciate it there. The next stage is to go through all the areas in between the armor plates, such as here in the groin area, around the knee and behind the knee if we can get in nicely, in the elbows, wrists and gloves, his visor, the pauldron and all the ammo pouches and belt area with our Abaddon black again. Don't worry too much if you get any of the black onto the white, because we can always tidy that up in the later stages when we come to highlight the white areas. Don't forget, at this stage we will also be doing the back of the skirt and carefully under the pauldron here, and well, basically anywhere that we feel needs the black paint on. So without further ado, let's get a bit of the Abaddon black on our palette. Again, a small drop of water so that the paint flows smoothly and doesn't clag. And we will gently, carefully go into all of these black areas, trying not to get any on the white. in here on the belt, here on the ammo pouches and the pauldron and around his neck. Not forgetting the gloves and the back of the skirt. So I'll get back to you as soon as I've done all that. Okay, that's all the black done. As you can see, I've gone over in a couple of little places onto the white. But as I said before, that will easily be tidied up during the next stage, which is I'm going to go over the whole model, or at the very least the black areas, with an ink wash from Citadel Colour, which is Drakenhof Nightshade, which is a dark blue wash and will give a slight blue tinge to all the black areas, which will show up when I come to do the actual trim of the blue parts that Rex has on his armour. So, no messing about, let us get on with this. Again, it's probably best to put a little bit of paint on the palette, maybe a touch of water, not too much because we don't want to water it down too much. And we will start with the skirt, and we will add this blue wash to absolutely every area. Okay, back with you when that is complete. Then, with that shade on, it is now time to bring up all of this white back to white, and to put a subtle highlight on the black parts. To do that, we will be using our white scar again. So we'll get a little bit of white scar on the palette. And thin it down slightly so that we get a smooth paint. Twirl the brush to get a nice point on. Get a little bit on the end of the brush there. And picking the starting point, we will layer the white on, just avoiding the deeper recesses. Like so. Again, because the paint has been thinned, it may require an extra coat to get a good finish, but that's okay. Well, the thing we have to remember now is, because we're getting to the end game, is that mistakes are going to be much more difficult to fix now. So we will take our time a little more and just make sure that the paint goes where it's supposed to go. And unlike the last clip and just now, I will endeavour to actually keep the miniature in camera while I'm painting. So I must apologise for that last clip where I did all my painting sort of off camera at the top of the screen. But hey, this is the first time I've done a miniature painting video, and I'm learning just as much as you are. So we will be getting this on in a nice even coat like so, all over the white areas, and I'll get back to you as soon as I have done that and quickly show you how we're going to highlight the black. So there we have the white highlight completed on all the arm pieces there, and tidied up anywhere that I've got into the black. I think it looks okay, but to be quite honest, my eyesight is so bad these days I can barely see my hand in front of my face. But I think it looks okay. So the next thing we're going to do is do a highlight on this large black area here on the skirt. I will do a line highlight across here and down this side, and some of the more raised pieces here and here, and on the pistol holsters on either side there and there. I will attempt a small highlight across the bandolier here and the ammo pouches. This part of the pauldron will be done later, but I think because there's going to be a lot of blue banding on the edge of the skirt there, down the knees, the arms and various other places, which is typical of this character, what I will try and do is take a very dark blue for the highlight on the black, and hopefully that'll pick up and will look nice against the blue trim. So we will be starting with a Citadel colour Cantor blue, which I'm sure you know the story by now. We'll take a little bit on our brush, put it on the palette, so 2 daubs of paint, and a bit of water to make it flow nicely. And then we will very carefully, slightly inside that edge, paint a very fine line along here and there, which will give that a highlight across the top of the holster and down that side. A little bit on that raised highlight crease there, and again on this side we will do the top of the holster across the bottom and down that raised part there. Now I realise that is hardly visible, but to be quite honest, it's a highlight in black, so hardly visible is kind of the point. And there, that is pretty much how we want that to look. The next thing to do will be the actual blue banding parts. So we'll start with the knee pads, using the side of the brush because the point would be a little bit unwieldy. We will do that line there, and the same on the other knee pad, again using the edge of the brush rather than the tip. Very gently and very carefully paint these lines. I think that's covered okay. Maybe a little bit more on that one. Right, the next thing to do will be all around the edge of the skirts, not forgetting that you've got the inner edge down there. These plates on top of the pauldron and some rather tricky work around the edge of his visor there. And once I've got all that done, I'll get right back to you. Well, that's the blue on the knee pads, the edge of the skirt down his arms there and there, along the shoulder pauldron here, and the best I can manage on this helmet done. It's not my best work, but I'm afraid with the way these old eyeballs are working these days, it's probably the best I can do. I did change my mind. I didn't use the Cantor Blue. I used a shade called Altdorf Guard Blue instead, which I think is actually closer to what we see in the Clone Wars cartoon. The last thing to do is the metallics on his pistols and the belt buckle in the middle there, and this targeting debris being the technical term for it, on the helmet. Then we'll base him, and I think we'll do some heavy weathering which hopefully will cover up a lot of the sins of my paint job. But first things first, I will be using Games Workshop Citadel Colour lead belcher for the base of the metallic parts, and then a very, very light dry brush just to pick out some highlights in Stormhold Silver, also on the metallic parts. I will then come back to you so that we can have a look at how that looks, and we'll go through the weathering process. So, without further ado, let's get on with that then. Right then, here we go with the final stage. I'll be starting off using the Tamiya Weathering Master pad, and I will be using the mud from this. The first bit I will put on with the brush and get it all around the lower part of the miniature. Make sure you get a good old lump of it up and just brush it on wherever you think your guy is going to be a bit grubby. After this, then get the sponge end and just stipple it on all over the areas where you want your model to be showing a bit of dirt and grubbiness. So we will carry on with this and get some grub all over him, all over the skirt. In fact, we will go up to around the waist area with this, and then use the brush end again just to subtly blend the dirt in and give a beautiful effect. These powders will actually save you a ton of time. Okay, because we've got this as well, we're going to use a bit of the sand, which is a more orangey colour, which we will be using just below the knee, and then again on top very lightly with the light sand. So pat it up a bit, pick it up on your brush, stipple it on below the knees, here and here, maybe a little bit on the lower edge of the skirt, and again just dab 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 to blend it in. And because the Reichland dirt's there as well, what we can actually do is very lightly brush a bit of the dirt across the Reichland mud that we've used for the basing, which will also highlight that quite subtly and nicely, and we'll get a nice finish on that, a nice finish on the lower armour. And there we go for that one. So we'll finish with that. Now we will take the next pack where we're going to be using just the soot this time. So again, grind it up a bit, get a fair bit of the powder onto your brush and dab it on all over the upper parts of the armour. Dab, 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 and here we go. Try and blend it a little bit with the dirt that you put on the lower part so that it all blends in nicely together. Get a good old bit on there, and now your Captain Rex, once we start using the sponge to very subtly blend again. Now your Captain Rex should be looking some nicely dulled down, and instead of a guy who's just come off the parade ground, we now have a trooper who looks like it's actually been in the wars a little. So quickly look through the other ones. Do we want a rust? These colours not so much. Maybe a touch of the oil stain again around the feet area, but probably not. But I think I will add a little of the green and grey just to lift the base slightly. So we'll brush that on all over, and a little bit on the feet to emphasize where he's got mucky in combat, and then very lightly everywhere else. Again, a little bit of the grey just to take the edge off. Okay, remembering that these powders are just that, they're powders, and to get a final fix of them all, you'll need to spray your miniature with an all-over coat of varnish to get the final effect. So there we go, subtly blended in with the weathering, not too much, not too little, but I think just to finish it off, we will add 1 or 2 tufts of this static grass. So using a tweezer, pick the static grass up off the pad. I will be using a small dab of gel super glue on the bottom there. Find a nice place to put it and just gently fix that to your base. Now, other than the rim of the base, which I'll do as soon as I've taken him off this painting handle, and spray of undercoat, that is a Captain Rex finished. So I'll go and put him on the display stand and get you a nice final shot so you can have a good look at the guy. So there we have it, Clone Captain Rex in all his glory. I very much enjoyed painting this miniature, and I think, all things being equal, it's come out pretty well. I will be taking on board a couple of suggestions I picked up from some friends where, well, I'll get some extra tools to improve how well I see the miniature so that I can tidy up some of that line work. But yeah, all in all, I'm very pleased with how this has turned up. If you've enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because every little bit helps the channel and I'll be able to produce more videos like this. And hopefully I will be able to put together a playlist of basics, including tools and tips and tricks on how we should all be putting these kind of miniatures together and getting the best paint job that we can. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. Me and the captain really appreciate it. I don't know what else to say. I love your face. Goodbye.